of our foraging and feasting series, kindly supported by the National Lottery Good Causes and all of you who are subscribing and watching us on YouTube. We are here at Pelawn, which is a wonderful part of the bay on Whitsands on the Rain Peninsula, southeast Cornwall. Now, today my intention was very much to talk about an ingredient that's in season in January, which, believe it or not, for the beauty and the warmth of where we are right now, it is January. And that was going to be the blue mussel mollusks. Yet we came down to the beach, it's a very high winter tide, and we missed our window. So we had to literally think outside of the box and gather what we could find that was beautiful, fresh and in season, using a variety of seaweeds. So we've got 2 seaweeds on the menu today, and then using some of our wonderful succulent coastal plants which are growing, hugging the shoreline. So we have some treats for you today, and then we mix it all up together in a creation test at the end. So do stay tuned, and welcome to the 5 plants today of episode 3. Thing about where we live here in southeast Cornwall on the Rain Peninsula is that we have one of the cleanest beaches with the cleanest waters in the UK. In fact, we're on the top 8 and we are number 1 of the cleanest waters in the UK, which means we have really low levels of things like heavy metals and E. coli in our waters, meaning our seaweeds and our shellfish are really fine to eat from down here. Now, we were going to be filming shellfish today. The tides are really high, so we have to do a bit of a ready, steady cook creation and come up with something completely different with the ingredients that we have. So it is January, and number 1 that I have found, which I want to cook with today, is this beautiful twisted rack. Now, it's called a twisted rack because the way that it twists off the rock, and when you have a good look at it, using your scissors to harvest seaweeds responsibly, so cutting through what we call the stipe, we've got this lovely curly looking brown seaweed. Now, on our racks they have what we call a channel that runs up the fronds, like the leaves of the seaweed. Almost like if you're looking at the vein in your wrist, this seaweed has a channel that runs up, and that's where it pumps the water around its system. Now, this makes a really good seaweed for things like a stir fry. And when you can't cook mussels because the tide is catching you up, stir fry is going to be what it is, but using some of the beautiful fresh seaweeds and some of the wonderful aromatic sea herbs that we have growing on the coast. So how do we use this? Well, we're going to be cooking on the beach today. We'll show you exactly how to chop it up. It is full of iodine, it's full of iron, it's full of vitamin C, and winter, January, is one of the best times to come and collect your seaweeds. The water is very cool. There isn't really any boats in the water, so you're looking at this beautiful, and they're young, they're fresh, you know, they're not reproducing like they do in the summer months. So number 1 on our list today is this beautiful brown spiral rack. So then, number 2 on our list is a really great way to get an authentic Chinese style into a Cornish stir fry. Now, when you promise your friends mussels cooked in white wine, you're going to have to make up for it somehow. And what I really love when I go to a Chinese restaurant is to find a good, authentic, crispy seaweed on the menu. Now, it very seldom happens because these days they tend to use a kind of cabbage, makes it cheaper, and also harvesting seaweed takes time and energy. But when you live on the Cornish coast, it is in abundance, and you are really missing out if you don't come and try some of this particular seaweed. Now, it grows on the high levels of the shoreline. So you find that seaweeds grow in 3 different really main types of the shoreline. The low tide line, where you get your racks and you get your sea noodles and you get your mussels, and then you get your mid-shore where you get your dulces and you get your racks, and then your upper tide line where you're getting more of your green seaweed, and this is called gutweed. Horrible word, gutweed, like your guts inside your body, but a beautiful green seaweed that we can add to a stir fry to give us an authentic Chinese style seaweed taste to the dish. So the holdfast on gutweed is actually very small, it's very delicate, so we need to again, use our scissors like when we're harvesting any seaweed, and we want to be making sure this is fresh and pulled from the water and hasn't been sitting getting hot with flies on it in the sun. So it's nice, although it's a bright sunny day, it's a cold January day, and this gutweed here is submerged in that beautiful icy cold winter water. So taking your scissors, you want to, like you're giving someone a haircut, you want to pick the weed up, twist it, and then just give it a snip. So you're getting your beautiful weed in your finger just to go into your sieve here, which you'll swirl around with fresh water. When you look at gutweed, it almost looks like grass swaying in the water. It has hollow little tubes and the water goes up inside it, giving it that lovely wavy consistency. And you can eat gutweed raw. I like to whiz it up in a pesto and dip bread into it or make a salsa verde, but today it's going in our ready steady cook style stir fry. So number 2 is the beautiful green seaweed called gutweed. Number 3 then on our list today is something that we spoke about in our last foraging and feasting series. But when we looked at this plant before, it was growing on the side of a lake. Although it was a saltwater lake, it was more of an inland ingredient that we did that day. And now we're on the beach and here we find it again. This is beautiful Cornish rock samphire. Now when people think of samphires, they tend to think of a glasswort, or otherwise known as marsh samphire. And that's the succulent one that you buy in the supermarkets like Waitrose next to the fish, and it will cost you money, or you can go and find it for yourself in the early summer months round by estuary waters. However, we have growing here this beautiful rock samphire. Now this is a real part of our heritage here because it used to be picked and taken out to sea. We have a rich maritime culture here, and a lot of our naval industry would take this pickled in jars because it was really great at fighting off things like scurvy, because it's very, very rich in vitamin C. The mistake that a lot of people make in Cornwall, especially young chefs or trendy restaurants, is that they tend to serve this raw on the side of a dish, almost like a garnish. What you're doing there is technically putting people off a fantastic ingredient. The way that you eat rock samphire is that you need to apply some heat or some seasoning to make that flavour of this pop and to change the makeup of it. Because when you try this raw, it has a very, very perfumed, almost like kerosene petrol taste. As soon as you add this to heat, so if you're frying it, that flavour changes into a rich, almost orange, delicate, beautiful floral flavour, which is really great with oily fishes, it's great with potatoes, and it works in Asian style dishes too, like the random stir fry that we are going to make today. This is in its young stage, so it feels very supple, it's very soft, although it is a succulent. When it gets slightly bigger, it will flower. Now the flowers are part of the carrot family, so they have that umbel flower shape, and you can see some of the old ones here that have died back, lost their seeds and have fallen down to create new plants. So you can see now the umbel shape here, all coming out like the spokes of an umbrella. Now we always know that we must be careful with this family, but rock samphire is very easy to identify, mostly because foraging is not just about our eyes and all of our senses. And as I always say, one of the most important senses is our nose. It's something that you cannot get through watching a video, it's something that you cannot get through an app. Come out and look at this plant and see for yourself and smell. Take your scissors, cut through the leaves and bring that to your nose. You get this amazing orangey carrot floral smell. It's a wonderful ingredient. We're going to chop this up and add it to our stir fry. You're giving us a rich amount of vitamin C in the winter, which we need, which will be really well absorbed with the iron-rich seaweeds which we have in our basket. So number 3 today on our list is Cornish rock samphire. So when we're foraging for wild food, there's something really beautiful about feeling connected to your ancestry and your heritage. And when you come from the coast like I do, I feel very connected to the plants which are next to the sea. And this one here is a native British plant which our ancestors were eating for hundreds and thousands of years before we had agriculture and started cultivating plants and creating succulent varieties. So whilst this is now seen as a famine food, what people don't realise is that actually it's a wonderful aromatic herb with a secret to the bottom. And what I'm looking at here is the original wild carrot. Now, wild carrot, if you look at the leaves are very similar to the carrot tops that we grow in our gardens. However, they are much thicker and hairier. So if I come down and get right into the stem of the plant and hold them up, and I'm hoping that we can get this on camera, and we'll do a close-up for you, but if we just show you here, you might even be able to see how very hairy they are just by showing you in the light, that fine fuzzy hair, almost like the hair on your arms in the sunlight. Beautiful and hairy. Now, the thing that we remember with the carrot family is what I always say to people: hairy, not scary. When you see a hairy member of this family, you know you have not got one of the poisonous plants which is fatal, like hemlock. Please, please, please do not eat this family of plants unless you are confident with every single one, okay? If in doubt, leave it out. There is so many abundant wild plants that you can eat. So get to know these very well. We do courses, we're going to be doing some more advanced courses this year in this family of plants. But if you know your carrot family and you know your wild carrots, please do harvest this as a fragrant, beautiful vegetable. And wild carrot tops are going to feature this month in our wild food boxes, which we send out to the community. So we'll be using the tops of these fresh and fragrant carrot tops. They taste exactly like a young baby carrot. They are so beautiful and they almost have a citrus flavour to them. Now, obviously the root is where the carrot part of this plant lies. And this is a time of year where we can actually dig roots. Now, I have a wonderful digging stick at home, which I didn't bring with me today because I thought we were going to be eating mussels. So I have found a piece of driftwood and we are going to use this as a digging stick, and it's something that our ancestors would also have done. You know, they would have come to the coast if the tide wasn't right, or they didn't catch a fish that day, or they couldn't find a crab or a lobster. They would look to the vegetables growing, and here we have our root vegetable and our iron-rich, vitamin C-rich tops. So I'm going to take the digging stick, and I am going to try, and it might not work on camera, but you never know, we might be lucky. I'm going to try and get one of these beautiful roots out to show you. So they are not like an orange traditional carrot that you see in the supermarkets. They are white, they are woody and wavy, and hopefully we're going to find a good example. So we're going to use the end of our stick, we're going to poke it down, and I'll use my fingers to feel where the bottom of the root starts. And I'm just going to work ever so carefully around the base of the root, teasing it almost out of the ground. Now, wild carrots don't tend to have as long a taproot as the grown carrots that we have in our gardens. And bear in mind that they're working the way here around a rock face. So they could be going any which way, avoiding the bumps in the rocks. And we want to be careful that we're not disturbing other plants around it. Now, you must remember that it is illegal to dig up roots without permission from a landowner. We are on the Edgecombe land, Edgecombe estate, and we do have permission to forage here. And I've never really met anyone who's been upset with me taking a wild carrot out of the ground. But do check with who owns the land, do check where you are before you start pulling any roots out of the ground. So I'm going to just move my body a little bit to twist. This is where the hard work comes. And I'm going to very carefully start to pull. And there we have a wonderful, beautiful wild carrot. It smells delicious. We are going to peel and chop this up and add this to our random sexy stir fry. So last but by no means least, we come to this very delicate looking little plant, which is a coastal rock plantain. Now, we've spoken about plantains before. People who have been on my walks with me know that I love them for their medicinal value, the ones that we find in the hedge, the ribwort plantains and the broadleaf plantains. There is so much we can do with them for both food and medical use. But when we come to the coast, we have another form here, and this is one of the nicer flavour ones, I think, for eating in dishes rather than using just for medicine. So if we come down and have a look at this plantain, it has a very different shape to what we're used to seeing inland. I'll just snip one of these little leaves off. It has a spiky, more succulent taste, look to the plant, sorry. And it kind of looks like a little tiny miniature cacti or something like that, but it's not covered in any little spines. It's very soft, very smooth and very succulent, and it grows on the rocks hugging the top of the shoreline. So at the moment these are young. These are the old flowers and seed heads that are growing all around it, and we're looking at these young rosettes just coming out of the cliff, and we're going to snip the young leaves, and they're going to be the last thing we add to the stir fry to give a nice succulent crunch to the dish. So here we are in our outdoor beach coastal kitchen, and this is really Ready Steady Cook, or like that part of MasterChef where they say walk into the larder, here are some random things, now you have to create a dish. Because the ingredients that I brought with me today to the beach were intended for my beautiful mussel dish. Now the tides were wrong, so what did I bring with me? Well, I bought some wine. I like to cook my mussels in wine, so I have a bottle of white wine. I have some oil, I have some honey, I have some vinegar, an onion, a lemon, a lime, and a rustic sourdough loaf. So how am I going to put this all together with those wonderful wild ingredients that we just went through in episode 3? I have a frying pan, so we're going to do something in this one pot, and we're going to make it taste delicious, hopefully. So first of all, I'm going to get some heat on my pan, and whilst that's heating up, I'm going to just take the skin off my onion very carefully so I don't cut my hand open. Now, at this time of year, you can find a lot of wild alliums in the hedgerow. Your crow garlics are out, your 3-cornered leek are out, and your chives are starting to come out of the ground. But we didn't find those here today, so this onion that I brought with me is going to be the base of our dish. So just take the skin off, and that pan is starting to get warm, that's good. So into that, I'm going to put some butter. Some nice Cornish butter, as we're on the Cornish coast. Now I like butter. I like rich, decadent food, so that is going in my dish. And to stop the butter from burning on the pan, I'm just going to add a little bit of oil, just a little bit. And that will stop the butter from browning too much. And this is a walnut oil, so that's going to give us another dynamic to this crazy creation. The great thing about this is all of our vegetables, apart from the onion and the citrus, are for free. And they all have every single nutrient that we need to survive and to keep us healthy as a human being. Our seaweeds have got our proteins, carbohydrates, fibres, vitamin C, vitamin D, folic acid, brilliant. We've got our rock samphire, our vitamin C rich green. We've got our wild carrots, which are going to give us our herby citrus flavour, which are also very high in vitamin C. We've got our roots, our starchy carbohydrate from our wild carrots. Yeah, so let's see what we're going to do then. Oh, yeah, let's put it all together somehow. Oh, what was I going to say? Rock samphire. We've got our rock samphire as well. So the butter and the oil is starting to heat in the pan, so let's put some onion in just to fry off. Now you can see, because I'm in a wild kitchen, I'm just rough chopping things. It doesn't matter. You're going to eat with your friends and just enjoy picking things straight from the ocean and straight from the rock face into your pan. It's going to be great. This is not fine dining. This is eating well in the sunshine with friends. So, rough chopped onion. There's nothing better than the smell of onions in butter. Absolutely beautiful. So we'll get those going. As those are starting to colour, we want to start putting in our wild carrot root. Now, the larger ones that we pulled out are here. And then I have some that I just gave a wash to in the seawater and just took a little bit of the mud off the root itself using a sharp knife. Now, I'm not too bothered about leaving a lot of the outer peel on. That's where most of the nutrients are located in the root, so you don't need to be too precious. And then I'm just going to slice the carrots like you would a normal carrot that you buy from the supermarket. I say normal, nothing normal about cultivated bread varieties really. This is the normal. Sea wild is the new normal. So this white carrot is going into the dish. Now be aware that if you fast forward into the cooking part of this film, you must know your carrot family. Do not go digging up what you think is a carrot root, get the wrong thing and end up with something like a water hemlock or a any kind of hemlock root would kill you. Know your roots and know your carrot family is what I'm trying to say. So that lovely carrot, oh, in there. And this long spindly bit. Now this one I don't really have to take much of the skin off at all. And in fact this one I'm going to use the scissors because it's thin, so I can just chop this one straight into the pan. Chop, chop, chop. Don't waste a tiny bit. Look at that, beautiful. Yum. You don't want to harvest roots when the plant has flowered or gone to seed because all the energy is then in the flower and the seed. You want to get them in the, well, before they've done that part of their journey really. So this is a good time of the year in the winter to take some roots up out of the ground. Lovely. Right, next we are going to put in our rack. Now the first thing we looked at today was our spiraled twisted rack. We've got our nice fronds. We're going to cut them a bit smaller than this. And when this brown seaweed hits the heat, it's going to change from brown into more of a green colour. So let's see. Let's chop that in there. And sea veg in particular has what we call a umami flavour. It's got sweet, savoury, sour, salty, all mixed into one. So we don't even need the additional seasoning of salt because these sea vegetables have a natural salt content. So you can see now, look how green that's gone. From a brown to the green. How wonderful is that? It's almost like a really cool science experiment. Right. Then we're going to put in, so you want to put your thicker greens in and your thicker seaweeds first. So now we're going to put in some of that beautiful succulent Cornish rock samphire. Now you might think, well, how is this a complete dish? Where is the protein? The protein is in the seaweed. So don't worry about that. We may not have our mussels today. We'll come back another day and get those. Right, that's in there, lovely. Okay, now I want some of my gutweed, my nice Chinese cabbage. Now remember that when seaweeds with water content in oil, they can spit, so do be careful not to get too close to the pan when you're putting wet seaweeds in. Okay, so you don't want to put your face too close for a good sniff and then get an explosion in the eye. That wouldn't be good. Right, now we want some of our carrot tops. Nothing goes to waste. So I'm just going to snip some of these into the pan. Careful not to get any bits of grit or sand. Snip, snip, snip. Oh, yeah. Okay then, wine. Now, because some of these greens can be a little bit bitter, I am going to put in a little tiny bit of my honey. Now this is honey that we made at our apiary on our outdoor education centre down at Horsepool. So this is very, very local honey indeed. Oh, even that smells amazing. What a treat we have growing up here and living here on the Rhine Peninsula. Good old bit of honey. Oh, look at that. So whilst that is now reducing down a little bit, I put a little bit of lemon rind in there, just a little bit. Again, like I say, we're making this up, we're wigging it. If I had a grater, I would grate some in. I'm just going to chop a little bit in, and then a little squeeze that lemon. Now, whilst that's taking a little moment, we're going to cut some of that beautiful sourdough, which is also locally made in the village and sold at Widdicombe's. And the bread is going to be used to mop up all these wonderful sauces and keep this lovely dish together in a nice mouthful. All right, so we're soon ready to serve. Quick as that, quick and easy. Taking our nice hunk of bread. Let's just check that the carrots are soft. You don't want them to be really soft. My parents' generation are the kind that would boil carrots to death until there was nothing left of them. I like a crunch to my carrots, slightly al dente. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a little tiny splash of my mirin. Now it seems odd to use an Asian vinegar, but trust me, it's quite sweet and it will just lift the butter. Okay, right. Now I sent my colleague off to go and pinch some gorse flowers from the cliff. So I have some lovely little gorse flowers here, which are going to be a nice addition, garnish on the top. And gorse flowers are full of protein too. And also they're a natural antidepressant, so they cheer us up, they look beautiful. Ooh la la, look at this. Let's pick out a nice bit of carrot top to put on there. Sprinkling of these lovely gorse flowers. And there you have your beautiful Cornish coastal stir fry cooked in butter and wine on a lovely piece of rustic sourdough, and that is our lunchtime treat before we go for a wild swim. Bon appetit!